Hello.
Hi guys, we are back. Our 10th Apex World on Air show anniversary. This time, what do you wish for Apex 6? It's probably gonna be Apex 19, but I guess nobody would have known what Apex 19 should be, but we would say the next major release. But first, let me give you some updates, general updates of Apex World. So we have the member of the year, Marco Gorecki. Great job, well deserved. Member of the month December is the whole Apex development team. They accomplished to get 5.2 early adopter out before Christmas, and I don't think we know how much trouble it would be in such a big company like Oracle to put something out on such a short notice. In January, we have Helen Robertson. She is posting a lot of blogs for just for beginners, which is really valuable because I think we have maximum 5% content which is tagged as a beginner news. So we always grateful for beginner blogs and informations. Then the current podcast is from Carsten. He is talking about REST in general and all the new REST features in 5.2, and he explaining it in detail and very well. So if you want to know about REST or the REST features in 5.2, listen to the podcast. He's explaining everything. Then we have a new conference in Europe. Again, at Apex Only conference, 2 days in Spain, a week before Kscope. It's a low-cost conference, $100, 2 day, 30 tracks, and I'm looking forward to it. It's a week before Kscope, and I guess they will get a lot of abstracts which will be held on Kscope. The air shows will always be recorded and available on the Apex World YouTube channel. So, what is my wish list for Apex 6? So let me start a little bit from the beginning. I think we have...
Get ready, Joel. Here it comes.
Is that again? So I think we have a very special, unprecedented situation here in the Apex community. So we have a very special relationship between the developers and the users, or us, the developers. So we know each other very well. I would rather say we are kind of a family. But the problem is it creates something like, I would say, it's an inner circle of experts. So we're just talking to each other, and it's very hard for regular developers and beginners to get into this circle. Actually, they don't know that this is even existing. So I was at a customer a couple of weeks ago. I was in the kitchen and I talked to a guy and asked him, "Hey, where are you coming from?" "Yeah, I'm coming from Uruguay." "And what do I do? What do you do here? What project?" He said, "Yeah, I'm doing an Apex project." "Oh, interesting." I didn't know him. He didn't know me. He didn't know anything about community, and he's sitting practically 5 meters away from me, in the same office. And
how far is 5 meters?
Say
For
it
us in
again.
America.
Say it again.
How far is 5 meters in feet for those in America?
Not far.
That to me
But
seems pretty
you can
far.
you can basically shout to him. You can shout to him. And I experience this a lot when I come to customers. There are Apex developers there, but they're having a book on their table and they don't know about community, Twitter. With Apex World, it's getting a little bit better, but in general, we have a lot of, I would say, regular developers who are not involved in the community and all the new features and all that stuff, and not talking, let alone all the beginners that's starting with the tool. So my wish is, when we started with Apex, it was very simple. There was not that many options, and what was generated was simply perfect. you wouldn't like to change a lot, if anything. But now we have Apex 5, the universal theme, and responsive web design, a lot of functionality. It's becoming more and more complex, and I can handle it, but for the beginners and the regular developers, it's becoming more and more complicated. So I would wish, not for me, but in general, I would wish for the next version to go back to the old simplicity. And therefore, I don't want to have new features. So I would like to have a consolidation version for Apex 6 and make the old ones, the old features perfect. Let me show you some examples. So the checkbox, right? It's easy to fix with a little CSS, but people are creating plugins for that to make it perfect. And this should working right out of the box. It should be right out of the box. Another thing, what I always do, 90% of the time, I'm having reports and I'm editing a record and I delete a record. So what I want to have is something like this. So this is now an interactive grid as a report, nothing to edit because 95% of the time I'm using reports, no forms, right? So now I'm using the interactive grid as a report, which is very nice and I love it. But I still have the thing, I want to have a little trash can at the end, want to click on the trash can, and then there should be a modal dialog coming up and saying, do you really want to delete? And yes, and the record should be gone. So what do I do to achieve this? First, I need to create a new column. Then I put the link text with the right icon in it, and I put the ID in it, and then I create a hidden item for that, and then I make a click handler as dynamic action, and I get the corresponding ID out of the attributes, and then I have to do my own modal dialog. Why? Because the regular dialog of Apex, they don't have any heading. They don't have a title, right? And I want to have a title. And they also don't have a hot button. And for me, my design is always the next step has to be the hot color. So you don't have to think, you don't have to see, to read what is on the button or seeing at the icon, looking at the icons. You just see, okay, hot always means this is what you do 99% in the regular workflow. So to achieve that, I have to create my own dialogue. And at the end, I show the success message. It always costs me half an hour to figure this out because I mistyped something. This is something I would wish, and I think for a beginner or a regular developer, it should be very, very easy to have something like, you have a trash can, you click on it, you get a little dialogue, and the record is gone without even thinking about hidden items and dynamic action stuff. Another example, a rich display selector in the tabs. So what you see here is are tabs, but actually when the people who are really into that knows, no, tabs don't have a show all option. So what I wanted to have is a rich display selector functionality, but I want to have the tabs layout. And the integration of rich display selector and tabs is very confusing for me. So at the end, I have chosen the rich display selector functionality because it has this show all option, and I can. But I don't like the visual UI of the rich display selector. I like the tab UI. So I talked to Maxime, and he put a lot of CSS on top of it, and now I have a rich display selector with a UI of a tab. This is exactly what I want to have, and this is for me pretty confusing. Implemented these two concepts of tabs and region display selector. I would love to have one concept, region display selector, and the UI should be just a user interface setting, right? This is what I would like to. Other small things. So I saw in a blog recently that there's a little space in front of the search bar, and you have to add some JavaScript to fix that. Then another thing I'm fighting with, I always using the labels above, required labels above. If you set the required label above on region level, you get the star on the left side. If you set the required label above on item level, you get the star on the right side, for whatever reason. You don't get it if you have it on label left assigned, but label right, you have it either in front or on the back, but anyway, it's not centered. And it's very hard to understand why it's different. And what you really want to have is, I want to choose where is this star, left, right. It should be centered, and I should be able to choose the column. This is basic things the regular developer would like to have without going into details and having a lot of CSS, which of course, at the end you can fix it, right? You can do everything. But this is the fixed version. This is how I would like to have it, and I can achieve it with a little help of Maxime. But this is what it should be right out of the box. Right? Another thing.
You want it on the right?
I want to have it configurable. I want to choose. It should be on the right. It should be on the left. It should be color blue. It should be color red or yellow. It should be my choice.
Good.
Right.
Just so you know, the Apex team's watching this. Shakib's going to go verify this right now. It could already be fixed in the next release of Apex. We're on it.
Yeah.
Great suggestion. Thank you.
Another thing.
Can I just point out?
Okay.
If that is an option, it kind of adds to the complexity you were talking about. Like if everything becomes an option, even something as simple as which side you're setting the asterisks on.
Yeah.
That's just yet another option that a new person has to see and learn about and deal with.
Yeah, but this is what you. So the other thing is, this is what you when you have a regular developer, you're doing forms, you have labels. The label handling with the labels should be configurable, very easy to do. So, and if you have a required label, then the icon should be you should be able to choose the icon which is required, the color, where is it, left, right aligned. This is something basic for forms, I would say, for the regular simple people, right?
Right, fair enough.
Okay, so another thing which is also very confusing to me. If you want to have the labels aligned left, you can't do it on the item level, which you would expect. So I'm searching very, very long to see, it cannot be. Where can I put it on the left side? You have to do it on region level. And so you can always set everything to left aligned and not a single one to left aligned. And so it's the all or nothing thing. And you wouldn't expect that. It's fine if you have it additionally on the region level, if you want to have 20 different items and change that all at once, but it also should be able to, on an item level, to set the label left or right aligned, because it's an attribute of the item. Hard to find. Another thing. This is this.
Time. we're supposed to have 6 minutes, right?
Yeah.
I just want to make sure we've all got time to put our thoughts in.
I'm almost. Let me go through this thing quickly. So here, what I see here are all the buttons where I can put my buttons in an interactive grid, but I will never put a button in any of these positions: previous, top, default, above, below. Never. What I really want to have is to put the buttons in here, but I need to have a plugin. And this is something, this should also come out right out of the box, that I be able to put the buttons inside an interactive grid region. A select to list. This is the most used plugin. And people don't know that you can multi-select the select list, especially manager. So a select to select list would be really helpful. No pop-up LOVs anymore. So pop-up is gone, right? This is not what you really want to have in a modern UI. So what I create is a nice interactive grid, pop-up LOV, So with a nice report, it costs me an hour to do this every time. But it's worth it because it's very nice. You can search for it. So this is what also should be out of the box. And then my favorite, the bad grid. when you start and having a form, this is the default. When you have 4 items on the same line, and when it's spread all over the place, and this is what looks weird for the customers. And when you make it smaller, then it's very noisy. So everything is moving, and then the content is cut a little bit before it breaks, right? And my customer is asking me, why is this spread all over the place, and why is it moving? Have enough space? So this is what he really wants to have. And this is what I'm implementing. Very clean, very nothing is moving, and the content always stays the same. And what you see is what you expect. Now we have not enough room, and now it breaks. This should be a default, right? In my opinion. So, last thing. No new features. Make it simple. Make the small things perfect again for the regular developer. But if there is a new feature, I would love to have something like web templates, because we have a lot. Apex is good enough for web applications, and also in intranet applications, we often have this starting page which looks very should be attractive. And here's a perfect example: the new web page from Ask Tom. It's an Apex application, and I would love to have that. If I would have a wish for a new feature, it would be web templates, that we can have a starting page like this. Okay, this is from my side. So I try to stop my sharing the screen. Who wants to continue?
I'll go. I think I can get us some time back too, because I'll be brief. Jürgen really already touched on sort of the 2 things I was thinking of. One of which is some kind of a super duper LOV that's searchable, sortable, enterable, multi-select, single select, something that really just handles it all. I think would be great. And I do agree with there being a release that, rather than tackling a lot of big new features, focuses on refining existing features.
Yeah.
I think that would be a nice release to see. That's it for me. I have no slides.
I'm slideless too, so I guess I'll go next. Sort of taking what Jürgen said and molding it a little bit. One feature that I think could be helpful, and maybe not to everybody, would be a low-code mode of Apex. And hear me out on this. There's been a lot of traction that I think Apex is getting in the market because the Gartners and the other analyst firms out there are pushing this low-code approach. And you can see that the blueprint, right, the new feature in 5.2 and on apex.world.com is sort of a reaction in some sense to this, to say, look at what I can do with the tool without ever touching the keyboard. The problem is, if you want to change any of that stuff, you're right back to the same screens that have been with Apex since day one. So I think there's a little bit of a gap, as you can create a very slick application, low code, but now you have to go and manage it with some degree of code. And that degree is really going to depend on the developer behind the keyboard. It would be interesting, and I know this wouldn't be trivial to pull off, but to have another interface, not taking away from the existing one and not stopping the enhancement of the existing one, but a different interface that would allow me to manipulate the top 10 options of all the components on the page. So a report, for instance, if I look at it, I can sort the columns. I could say this column displays or doesn't display, and then maybe position it on the page. All the other features, the CSS class, the icon class, the run validations, all the little nuances that we as Apex developers understand and use, they're simply not shown, and a set of defaults are taken. This way you could then tell a better story of a true low-code environment, right, where I built this application. I used the blueprint. I've got a form and a report and another form and another report. Watch how easy it is for me to add a field. Watch how easy for me is it to put a security rule on this page without having to go write the SQL to do that. As Apex moves, in some sense, the direction of the tool itself, it looks like it's moving towards RESTful APIs. This seems to be more in reach today than it was. I remember proposing this 2, 3, 4 years ago, where you could build that interface on top and say, I want to create a region. Here's a RESTful API to create the region that Apex is going to use as a tool. Here's the minimal 6 parameters I need to push to that API. Now I could have 2 interfaces, one that just pushes 6 and the other that pushes all 15 or 30 or however many there are, to have that ability to have one app with 2 development interfaces. And again, I'm saying this without any regard as to, could it be done, but that app could potentially be managed in a low-code environment and in a regular code environment concurrently, right? It would create some issues where now I turn on a condition as a regular developer and that acts weird as a low-code developer, but something could be struck. Something could be created where perhaps it's a low-code app until you not make it a low-code app. But I think that would help definitely with the push of low-code. It would get Apex a lot more exposure in the marketplace, and it would also be the only tool that I truly think you could say starts as low-code, but there is no ceiling. All the other low-code tools out there that I've seen at least have a ceiling of what they're capable of doing.
So are you suggesting something like the web sheet approach?
In a sense like that, but have it be on the Apex app, right? Not have a separate app with a separate infrastructure with a separate set of everything, but just have a simpler, less crowded UI to do 30% of what the traditional database development side does. That will probably solve 80% of people's problems, right? And the business developer can now truly be a business developer who can go in and do stuff, and you're just limiting what they can do, right? You're truly making a point-and-click development environment. And at the cost of sophistication, I totally understand and get that. But at some point, that app can easily just be, a button can be clicked, and now it's a regular app, and you can put anything you want, JavaScript, dynamic actions, etc.
But you're not talking about changing the application builder, right? What we had already this smaller set of options. You're not talking about taking the application builder and make it less options, but a new application builder.
Yes.
Okay, I get you.
A new application builder, totally new. I mean, it could be a mode. I don't know. Again, I'm not getting into the intricacies of how it would be done. But to provide that interface, whether it's a button you click or an option or a completely different set of pages, that's yet to be determined. But to give, it paints a better picture, it creates a better story to truly say this is low code. Because after that, like I said, the blueprint demo is done. How do I make this conditional? I'll write some SQL. How do I change the interface? I'll just fire up, Nitro and do some CSS. It falls apart pretty quick after you create that initial blueprint app.
Scott, do you mind if I add on top of this?
Sure.
So I actually will disagree on this because I think my personal feeling, and everyone may disagree on this, is we should have a developer-focused environment because that's what's going to attract more and more people to this. And if we slow it down, and there are a lot of complexities, you ever do a low-code, high-code integration, you're right about when things change between high and low-code.
Right.
That said, though, the thing I see from business users is they have no interest in getting in there. What they want to do, though, is when they're viewing the page, and we get this all the time, from project managers to business analysts, we're giving a demo, and let's just say we have employee ID. We show it, and because we're just mocking something up, and they see the words employee _ ID. And they spend all their time focused on that, of saying, well, that column should be renamed to employee number. What would be really helpful is have a separate role that wouldn't really affect low code, high code, but have a role as an Apex person that when you log in, when they're running the app, they can just click on that column and rename it to, let's say, employee number. It would save us so much time as developers and provide the business with extremely high valuable feedback. The low code, high code environment to me makes no sense. Doing something to that's all they want to do. They have no interest in making grids, writing queries. They just want to do that. They want to change the order. That's pretty much it.
You're saying like what you see is what you get interface.
Yeah, but very basic for those simple things, changing column names, maybe changing order, and it wouldn't impact, like, if we create this low code, high code, I think there's going to be a lot of issues that come up or confusion, whereas if they could just rename things, almost like what we have with the theme, not the theme editor, but you know how you can start styling things live?
Yeah, live attributes, right?
Think of live attributes, but for headers, region names, things like that. That would, again, cut down development costs, make business people happy, because as they're working in the dev environment, instead of creating tickets and things, they can just go do it themselves.
I agree. I think that'd be a beneficial feature. I don't think that says you can't do both, right? The benefit of having the low-code environment is there's a ton more business users out there than developers. And I don't think it's going to turn off any developers who that side of the tool continues to get enhanced and continues to get new features and functionality. Look at web sheets, right? Web sheets, I mean, does anyone use web sheets on the call here?
That's another thing, right? Like,
I mean, it was an attempt at that. It was an idea that never took off because there was no path out of a web sheet. You built this thing, you could show your business users how this is better than a spreadsheet, and it arguably was. But once you were done with it, when they said, hey, we want to have a role, we want to have a scheme, we want to do this, what do I do? You've got to do this, one-off migration to get it out of there and move it over. So I don't see it as it's going to take away anything. I just see it as another interface that, again, if the Apex team is moving towards this RESTful architecture, it wouldn't be, I don't want to trivialize it, but it wouldn't be a huge undertaking to have two screens to create a region. One being the traditional screen and another one just being, give me the region name, pick one of these 5 region types, not 14 or 15, and then click on the table that you want to have a report on, and then shuttle the columns back and forth. I don't know if I'd use it, but I think it would open up Apex to a whole different group of development.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, the one thing I was going to say is this is even before Apex was a supported feature. Jason and I visited with this CIO of this car company here in America, and the one thing he stressed at the time, he said, you should not neglect, as he called it, the grandma interface, so that my grandma can do something here. And professional developers aren't going to use the grandma interface, but to some degree what you're talking about is a much more simplistic, easily understood interface to do the 10 most common things, right, without an array of options. And I think that has merit. If we want to grow the Apex community of people who can start off small, I think that's a reasonable approach, because today, I mean, I love Page Designer, but people in marketing look at this the first time and they get blown out of the water. When you say SQL, it's untouchable to them, right?
Joel, if you want 2 beta testers for that, I'm volunteer my parents, because if you ever follow some of my Twitter streams, they're your grandparent testers right there.
Sure. I think it's a great idea. I mean, is it feasible? And with our limited time and money and budget, I don't know, but I love the idea.
Okay, Joel.
What about you, Joel?
Yes, what about you?
Yeah, so I'll go. I don't have slides, but I have my list, and then I have another list as well. So this will be easy. There's a lot of opportunity for Apex as enterprise apps extensions. So not only Oracle SaaS, our cloud applications, but e-business suite, JD Edwards, PeopleSoft, SAP, whatever. And at a minimum for because I think our SaaS applications at Oracle in the cloud, I think these are one of the things we do very well, and there's lots of traction there, and I think there's lots of opportunity for extensions. So what I'd like to see in Apex is a theme that looks exactly like Oracle SaaS. So because we have many partners using Apex to extend SaaS today, and they have to spend a lot of time and money to make it look like these types of applications. So I'd like to see some investment there. I'd like to see us do the SEO-friendly URLs, actually with an ability to publish a sitemap, right? If here's where I want Google to index me. I'd love to see some native XLS support, so not CSV, but native XLS support built into Apex. I mean, I know that's not going to appeal again to the professional developer, but I'm just still amazed. 2018, Excel everywhere. I just dealt with it yesterday, and it would be an easy way. And I think it's a great opportunity for Oracle in the cloud, right? Take this Excel spreadsheet and create this web app on this native Excel. Boom, you're done. I mean, to me, it's a no-brainer. And I guess those are my top three. Number four is there's this architecture that's permeating really a lot of app dev at Oracle across Visual Builder Cloud Service and our app development, and it's called this composite component architecture. So I'd like to see Apex to be able to exploit and consume these components, and as well, I'd like to see us include some more native features in Apex based on some of the Jet UI components. So those are my top four. I asked Mike Hitchway yesterday in advance of this what his top features would be, and anybody who knows Mike knows that he's a constant stream of energy and thought. So he gave me his list, and then an hour later he gave me another list, and then I got even more last night. So the guy's constantly thinking. I've been able to condense Mike's top three, and he's done some really interesting things with native JSON types in the database, and to be able to, you just have a CLOB, and it's all JSON data, and you parse it, and it's an easy way to add. So it's basically you have a table with a primary key and a CLOB that has JSON, and that's your data, and you can do indexing and queries on it and updates of it, and Mike's done some really interesting things with this, and so it would be better support for JSON in Apex and to be able to do DML on JSON as well. Mike desperately wants a better data workshop. That what we have in Apex hasn't been touched in years, and I think that it deserves some focus from us. And then perhaps this is what you were even talking about, Jürgen. I mean, make no mistake, is I agree that we should spend some time making things simpler, better out of the box. And one of the things that Mike suggested, he called it, I think it was like directed development, but basically less steps and wizards, right? To be able to say, it's almost like conversational, right? So create a pie chart on this table, great. Now group it by country or graph it by country or whatever, right? There's less steps and better out of the box results without having to go through these many multi-step wizards. So,
all right.
And then Mike gave me more last night at 6, but I didn't listen to the top 3.
Then
I don't know who's Mike.
Mike Hitch was the original creator of Application Express and WebDB as well.
And he's the reason we're all here.
He's the reason we're all here, that's right.
Then I would say we open it up to the audience. Maybe, Dan, you are pretty good at this and understanding the questions.
Wait, Jürgen, I don't get my top 3?
Oh yeah, sorry. I don't see you. And when I don't see you, you're not existing.
Okay. I guess so. I'm doing this purely from the developer focus side of things. So there's some great points that have all been made on the just keeping things simple. I think they're all great ideas. From the developer side, is have some ability to version control from a merge perspective. My idea on that would be a JSON export. But we'll leave that to the experts. I know it's a complex problem, so people listening thinking that it's as simple as, well, we just you just make it merge like every other code system. It doesn't work that way, so it's a complicated problem, but I'd love to see if we could have that solution. The second thing is probably the ability to expose a lot of the APIs in terms of, we talk about, I know from your point, Joel, of just the ability to say, hey, I want a table, create a pie chart, and put graph it by region or something. Developers would like to just say, well, instead of going through clicking 20 different buttons, I just like to say create a pie chart, like have the same level of API access so they can script and build and do a lot of things like that. And the third thing is along your XLS and CSV, Joel, but slightly different. As developers, we actually have a high level of request of, we're going to upload a CSV or an Excel file, you need to process it. And I've spent countless hours processing CSV, and I know it's maybe not a direct Apex problem, but having an API to say, here's a CSV, and we'll dump it in some sort of temp table, Apex collection, or even just a Oracle, like a PL SQL table for you to process. It's actually a complicated problem when you think about how CSVs are structured, or an XLS. Having that, and then there's a couple open source projects on there, but maybe having that more rooted into Apex would really help, because again, a lot of people want to upload CSVs and then you parse it and you have to do some business logic would really help. So more from an API, not looking for any automated wizards or anything. You really just almost looks like apex_CSV or apex_Excel and process.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. It's the same common things over and over again. Is you might have like many fields comma separated within one cell. You might have to do some data cleanup. Just very basic operations, time and time again. It's almost like you stage it, clean it up, move it into your operational table, and away you go.
Yep.
Yeah, and just there are CSV standards, and it's a complicated problem. We're actually, from an open source perspective, we're looking at doing some of this. However, I don't know, it might have more clout from the Oracle side, coming from the Oracle side, and especially Excel processing, right? When they just dump a standard, very basic workbook Excel file.
All right, then I would say we open up. Dan, can you go through the list and identify the suggestions?
Sure. So we'll start with the first here. What about embedding print capabilities like Jasper reports or something like that inside of Apex? I think what I'll do, I'll act as a moderator, ask the question, and then just pick someone at random to respond to it. So on that one, I'm gonna pick Martin. If Martin's still with us, he may be.
Yeah, I think my gut feeling on that is, I know Joel can't probably comment on it, is just purchase AOP and integrate it. That would be the best solution, I think.
Wow, simple enough. That's all you need. All right. So the next one here is there a specific OCPP for Apex? If not, can we recommend one so that it helps job seekers and recruiters? Joel?
There was a certification exam. It was obsoleted in the fall of 2017 because it was out of date. Plenty of questions on web sheets that people always failed at, and we're in the process of creating a new certification exam, hopefully out in 2018. People want it. We want to do it. It's underway.
Will it be another kind of master or OCP? Will it be a track? How's it going to work? Do you know any of the details?
I think it's going to be just similar to what it was before, like this certification exam, and you get a certificate. But.
Okay, cool. All right, my wish: less page submitting, more partial page refresh, like React, Vue, etc. Scott, what do you think about that one?
Yeah, I'd like to see some of that. That's really the internal plumbing, and I think on the surface it seems like that'd be easy and quick to do, but the reality of that is I think the Apex team is starting to move in that direction, and we're going to see more stuff like that. But I think that's really where web development kind of is trending towards. So I would expect that maybe not in 6, but maybe in 6 we'd see more movement in that direction. So yeah, it's a good thing.
All right. Next person wants to see better support for rich text input elements. For example, native support in interactive grid. Jürgen, do we need that?
I don't even think I understand the question, but there is.
So, for example,
you mean the rich text editor? I thought John implemented it the other day and wrote a blog about it. Didn't he?
Well,
I'm pretty sure.
Who is that?
John Snyder's implemented it.
John
Smith. And wrote a blog about it. I'm pretty sure.
So you think we're pretty good in that area for now?
Yeah. For me personally, I think we are focusing on interactive grid on all the editing stuff. I understand it. It's like we're having a car which is flying now, right? But I would say 95% of the time we're using it as a report, as an interactive report instead of a grid. Of course, there's a lot of focusing on all this editing stuff, but I would rather make the report perfect before I go into details like a rich text editor in interactive grid editing, right? Because 95% people would use it, and I use it right now as a replacement for interactive report, and it's good enough. It's not perfect yet, but it's great, much better than interactive report for me.
I'm trying to think who on the call would do the most translations for the next one. But this person wants to see better translation support, so maybe either Jürgen or Martin, I would assume, might deal with that the most. How's the current translation support, and does it need to be improved?
I'll leave this up to Jürgen.
I have no idea. I only translated an application once in different languages 10 years ago. From now on, we do everything in English. I don't know the current situation.
All right. Next one I have here is when we import-export from one environment to the other, the target environment loses all sessions, i.e. dev to prod. Can we have a seamless import-export and preserve sessions? I'm not sure I understand that one.
Me too. I don't understand it.
Joel, what do you think?
I do, but I think some of it might be intentional itself. So let's, in that, let's say you're running an app, right? We're running, our employee directory, and we come along and we import an entirely new version of the employee directory. Are any in-flight Apex sessions, are they exterminated? And I'm not sure. Christian might have implemented something along those lines. That's news to me, though. If we do that, because I would think that we would want to support hot upgrades.
It does do that now. So when you do an upgrade, even if it's the same app ID and everything, it'll kill all the sessions, so you have to log in again. Be nice to have an option, but I can see both sides, right? Well, what if I've got additional fields on the page and I've got the old version when I go to submit? That's right. But what if I just change the backend process and I don't want to kill all the sessions? So it'd be nice to have an option to say, if you leave this on, warning, this could be bad, but give you the option.
I'll follow up with Christian on that. I think that's a great point.
All right.
Having access to a lot of the Apex API, the developer APIs, like to create an item. I know we have item, but you can't create a page item, but that would allow us to create hot fixes live so instead of deploying a full application, if you have a small thing, you need to develop a hot fix.
So obviously Sam is disagreeing. It's like his father.
So next person says, I would really like to have workflows, and I know this is something Doug is taking on as a side project.
Yeah.
But I think this is asking for something integrated. Joe, what do you think about that?
I think it's a good idea. I mean, everybody asks about it. People want event-driven, asynchronous processing. So, if Doug does something there, then great.
But it should be a packaged application, right? Not part of the application builder, I guess.
That's right. I mean, it could be maybe it's part of the Apex framework itself. Maybe it's APIs. I guess that is to materialize it. I would hate to re-engineer this all over again, because even on one of Doug's blog posts, when you talk about workflow, what does that mean? Is that BIPL? Is that SOA? Is this? Is it a job scheduling system? What is it?
Yeah, I think we should revisit that when Doug's kind of gotten knee deep and has some of his own opinions. All right, how about region content as more of a shared component? Unless I'm missing something, the only way to reuse a region on multiple pages is to define a region on a global page, but that does not allow page-specific positioning or parameters. Scott, is that something you need?
I was not paying attention, but let me read it real quick.
Busted.
Yeah, well.
Basically, regions and shared components, not just as a global page thing.
I can see that because I've run into where you want to put a region in multiple places, and if you define it once, yeah, you can put on page 0, but it'd be nice to have it as a shared component. I think we'd have to hash through that a little bit. There's a couple like enhancements to shared components I'd like to see maybe before that one, but it's not a bad idea.
All right. That same person would also like to see multi-line records and reports and grids. That's interesting. Jürgen, what do you think?
I know what he's referring to.
What is he referring to?
That
I'm not clear.
yeah, that the content is breaking in a good way. You don't have the right record at the right cells because they have a large text. You have some kind of nodes, and I think he's referring to that. I have no idea how you could achieve that.
I thought maybe sometimes you see certain reports. I think Jet has a component for this where you're looking at a report and there's the normal rows, but you could drill down. You can open a row up and see some related rows or something like that.
Yeah.
I could see value in that. I think there's a plugin that allows you to do it now, but some native support.
Yeah, there's a nice plugin for that.
For now. Yeah. All right. Next person says they want to see the debug feature on the developer toolbar show all dynamic actions running with normal behavior or errors that come out. Dynamic action debugging can be challenging sometimes. Joel?
I think it's a great idea. I've lived that before. I don't believe that's you can enable that today. I'd love to see it, and we can suggest it to the team. Why not? Right? Because the more dynamic actions you get on a page, it can get very complex very quickly.
Isn't there something new in the latest release that bridges some of that? Like if an error occurs in the console, it does display that in the developer toolbar?
Yeah, I believe so, right? You'll get like a little badge or red icon there, right, with errors there. So
nice.
It is an improvement. Not specifically what this person's asking, but it's an improvement.
Right. Okay. So the same person that wanted to drill the multi-line reports also says number 2, sub-reports in line with other reports. Right. So yeah, that was more in line with what I was thinking.
Yeah, there's a plugin for that, but that'd be a neat little feature to have that detail be able to expand out, right? So if you're looking at invoices, for instance, you see 20 invoices. I just want to expand the lines of the invoice without having to go to the page.
Yeah.
It's great.
The implementation for that would be interesting to see. Next person says, I also like the suggestion of a super LOV out of the box. Thanks for that.
We'll let you think.
Next person says, and going back to that, I just think it should be the best of super LOV combined with the best of select to all in one simple kind of item. I think that would be perfect. All right, so someone says Martin's low-high alternative pop-up property sheet instead of switching to developer UI. Not sure what they meant by that.
I think expand what the live attributes do for templates to say a report, right? So if I'm viewing a report and it says employee ID, when he was, and again, Mark, jump in if I'm wrong here, click on the column name and say, I don't want it to say employee ID, I want it to say temp number, and be able to type that without going back into the builder tool.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Next person says, I agree with Martin. The Apex dev team should not waste time creating additional interfaces for low-code development. How many people use web sheets, time to develop? What could have been better spent on other features?
Just for the record, I don't have the plant going on in the chat room right now. It's not, there are 2 personalities going on.
But this guy was not Martin, right? Who wrote this?
This person says, I like to hear Martin's baby crying.
I've got 2 kids if you want to have them shipped out to you. They're both capable of learning.
All right, I am constantly fighting off CMS advocates for what you see is what you get editors like Concrete 5, SharePoint, ModX. So I think this kind of goes back to Martin's point, something more along the lines of what you see is what you get. All right, this person has a wish list. Number 1, form saving in more than one table. Interesting. Number 2, interactive grid, declarative, not a lot of JavaScript. And number 3, printing solution built in. So that's another vote for printing. What about a form saving more than one table, Joel?
I mean, it's possible. You can't do it declaratively today. You could write your API. You could write in step triggers and the like. I don't know. I'll put the question back to you guys. Do you see this, a need for this frequently?
I mean, yeah, I don't know. How would you? I guess you could make it declarative, but then by the time you get through all the steps of saying, here's how these 2 tables are related, and here's how I want to do the update. I agree. I could just create method out procedures, jam out a package, and just hook that up and get everything I want exactly how I want it.
I mean, I don't doubt that there's a need for it. The question is that need 5% of the time? And if it is, should we invest in that, right?
Maybe the need is to make that methods on tables package generation a little bit more tightly integrated in the sense where I can, bring that code right into my application rather than going over to SQL Developer, SQL Workshop rather and creating it there. And being able to be more discreet with, here are the columns I want, right? So a wizard, in fact, that's in the builder, where you go in and say, I want to create an API on this table, and I want these 2 columns, and I don't want to do deletes. And it just jams everything out there for you. That would solve this problem in some sense.
I mean, make no mistake, if you see on Twitter as well, the whole smart DB crowd, both inside and outside of Oracle, wants us to much better support API-driven development, forms and reports on that as well. I mean, you can do it today, but it's not a first-class citizen in Apex.
Right.
When you say you can do it today, you mean how? API-driven development.
You can have a table. In Object Browser, you can create a package on that table. And then in the builder, you can create a form on a procedure.
Sure. Okay. Got it. So the next person puts in another vote for version control and also says they'd like to see APIs to create pages and other components. Was that addressed earlier?
Yeah, we mentioned version control. I think we've got 6 minutes left, and on my screen about 40 questions, so.
We'll never get through them all. No, I meant more the API. Apologize if I missed it earlier, but that's definitely a big one that comes up frequently, like a public flow API, if you will, a supported API to do things programmatically. Is that already discussed?
Not really. I like that idea. The ability to have that API. I think if that is implemented, though, needs to be like an on-off switch for security purposes, right? So this app's API is on or off. Maybe even more discrete. These 2 APIs are enabled, and these 5 are disabled. So you don't have an API hanging out there that someone can call randomly.
All right. Somebody here would like to see improved templates such as cards with images, flippable cards, etc. Jürgen, that's something you'd like to see?
I have flippable cards. It's easy to just flip.
But what do you have to do to get it? Did you have to do a bunch of JavaScript here, CSS there?
Yeah, sure. But it's great. I love the feature because I have it really on the cards. I'm also on regions. So I have a chart region with a top 10 something, and I can flip it around and have another chart on the back side. And so you can really use the space very elegantly if you can simply flip the things like a page, and it's natural. So you have a front page, and you turn it around, and you have a back page. right? So it's not complicated to implement. If the guy should shoot me a mail and I can tell him how it's working right now. But yeah, it would be great to have it as standard feature to flip things.
Sure, he heard that and is going to start working on it today, if he's not already. So here's another vote for printing. That has been hanging out there forever. Being able to print the current view of a report, interactive grid, or interactive report. Fair enough. How about a central market for Apex applications where developers are able to publish and sell their apps? Joel, whatever happened with that? There was talk about that in the past.
Yeah, there's the cloud marketplace from Oracle, which there are some customers today who offer their Apex applications and their services, which are running on the Oracle Cloud. I'm not sure we're going to do something outside of that domain, since it's its own beast.
Fair enough. Back to you with this one, Joel. Authentication via Office 365 accounts. I know there's some enhancements with authentication coming in the next release. Would it support pretty much anything out there?
I don't know. I don't know what Office 365 can do. But I promise you, I'm not an Oracle sales rep here. But there was a customer in the Oracle Cloud who they wanted to authenticate their Apex apps to Azure Cloud, and they were able to do federation with Oracle Identity Cloud Management. So I know that's not going to help everybody who's on premises, but that's how people do it.
And that, just for that person that wrote that, send me an email or a tweet, and we may have something. I don't know if we're open sourcing it, but one of our developers, Adrian Payne, has worked on that, so we might release some information about it in the future.
Oh, you should share it with the community. I mean, the Active Directory, Office 365 authentication comes up all the time.
Okay, I'll talk internally about getting that out in public. I mean, you may already have a blog post, but again, I'll just send me a message and I'll retweet it if it's already out there.
This next person has a list. I don't want to read the whole thing, but I want to pick one thing out of it that I don't think was brought up yet and I think has been long sought after, which is multiple versions of Apex in a single database instance or a PDB.
Yeah.
Just had to jam that one in there. Moving on. Martin for president. Okay. Thanks for that.
Was that a statement or a question? Right?
It was a statement, an emphatic statement. Offline support, like a PWA, Progressive Web App. Yeah, I don't see that coming to Apex. What do you think, Joel?
Not anytime soon. Just like we struggle with offline support for runtime apps. It's not any time soon.
It's not the sweet spot for Apex. Apex is an online system. It'd be very much against the grain if that's the thing that you need. And this is coming from somebody who did a talk on this and has built offline apps that integrate with Apex and go offline, online, that kind of stuff. You're just best served doing something specific for the solution you're after. I wouldn't go against the grain in that case. All right, maybe we'll end it on this one. Feature requests, responsive IRs, and interactive grids, application-wide IR configs, and pagination control. I would think IRs are already responsive. I don't know about interactive grids. Are those responsive? They are?
I believe.
Yeah, so, hey, done. And then application-wide IR configs and pagination control. Might be some value in there, something in the shared components. Yeah.
So people who listening, watching the video afterwards, Joel, is there still, where can people suggest new features officially?
There's a website out there called apex.oracle.com/vote. And contrary to popular belief, we do review it frequently.
Fair enough.
Great. Then let's call it a show. And thank you very much. And we see you next time. Bye, guys.